Casual. Today, we're going to be going over our power rankings for week 14 of the 2025 season. Without further ado, let's get into these power rankings. The first tier of teams we have are the Titans at 32, the Raiders at 31, the Saints at 30, and the Jets at 29. I flip-flopped the Raiders and the Titans. I gave the Titans their flowers last week for competing with the Seahawks and the Raiders for getting blown out by the Browns, and I swapped them too. But the Raiders at 32, even though the Titans were probably still the worst team in the league, I was like, they've been at 32 for so long, let me put them at 31. And they kind of threw that all away, getting blown out by Jacksonville. A game I thought maybe they had a slight chance of upsetting. Didn't happen at all. They weren't even close. So they're back to being the worst team in the league and at 32 on my power rankings. And the Raiders actually didn't play horrible against the Chargers. Their defense played pretty good. And Brock Bowers played nice. So we're back to the Raiders at 31 and the Titans at 32. And then I swapped the Jets and the Saints. Jets get their nice win against the Falcons. It is only the Falcons. And I don't think the Jets are going to necessarily catapult above any of the other teams ahead of them. But getting a win while the other three teams got a loss, it boosts them up to 29 at the top of the bad tier. And the Saints go down to 30 after their failed comeback against the Dolphins. Next tier, we have the Giants at 28, the Browns at 27, the Vikings at 26, and the Commanders at 25. I kept the Giants and the Browns the same. Not really too much to say about it. The Giants lost to the Patriots by like 15, and the Browns lost to the Niners by, I think, about the same. So, not much to really say about those two teams. I'm glad Jackson Dart's back, even though he once again just kept getting hit. The offense does look its best with Jackson Dart, although we did see what Jameis did against the Lions. But Jackson Dart, once again, had his moments of playing pretty good in that offense, so I like to see that. And Shedeur also had some moments too. Then the Vikings at 26 go down 3 spots, losing 26-0 to the Seahawks, on top of their bad loss to Green Bay. The defense continues to try and attempt to keep them in games, but it's just really not enough because they have zero offense. And another reason why they go down 3 spots is because teams like the Commanders going up, as well as other teams we'll get into, but the Commanders go up 1 spot after they almost beat the Broncos, one of the better teams in the league record-wise. They were a 2-point conversion away, and Nick Bonito's long arms away from winning that game. Marcus Mariota played pretty good. The Commanders' defense, at least at the beginning of the game, looked actually all right. And we saw that once this offense gets Terry McLaurin back, they're actually not bad. Now imagine if they had Jaden Daniels. So if we ever get Daniels and McLaurin playing together, their offense, I think, will return somewhat to what we saw from them last year. Not so much on the defense. The defense is still not great, but you can see how this offense can actually be good if they're healthy. But they do go up 1 spot because they almost beat the Broncos, and the Vikings continue to look very bad, at least on offense. Next tier, we have the Falcons at 24, the Cardinals at 23, the Bengals at 22, and the Dolphins at 21. Falcons go down 3 spots after their loss to the Jets. It's not too bad. I'm not going to put them super low, even though it is the Jets. But I do think they deserve to be below the 3 teams ahead of them because the Cardinals, going from 24 to 23, almost beat the Buccaneers. It wasn't the prettiest game. It was one of the worst 2-minute drives I've ever seen by the Cardinals in an attempt to either tie or win that game. But they did lose to the Buccaneers by 3, whereas the Falcons lost to the Jets. So the Cardinals go ahead of them. Bengals going up from 25 to 22, another reason why the Vikings dropped as far as they did. Offense, looks pretty good with Joe Burrow back. That's surprising, right? But that's not super surprising because the offense did look good at times with Joe Flacco. It's how well the defense played against the Ravens. I think the Bengals could even won with Jake Browning at quarterback with how good that defense played. They held Lamar to 14 points. They forced 5 turnovers. The defense didn't play too bad against the Patriots last week as well. So that's 2 solid or really good performances from the Bengals defense. And if you can keep getting that on top of having Joe Burrow back as well as potentially T. Higgins back, Higgins, Chase, Burrow, that trio, Chase Brown's playing well, the Bengals could make a playoff run here. They're only like 2 games behind the division, so they go up 3 spots. I didn't want to put them too high just because I got to see it again because I still don't know how much I believe in that defense. So I didn't move them too high. And the Dolphins also got to win against the Saints, so they go up 1 spot. Not necessarily for their win against the Saints because it's the Saints and they barely beat them, but because the Falcons lost to the Jets. So that's why these 3 teams go up. Bengals go up a little more just because it was against the Ravens and they looked pretty good with Joe Burrow back. And Joe Burrow wasn't even fully healthy, but he threw so many passes in his first game. Like, here you go, Joe Burrow, start throwing the ball every play again. Next tier, Steelers at 20, Bucks at 19, Panthers at 18, Chiefs at 17. This is a very interesting tier. Steelers at 20 did not look good at all against Buffalo. It looked decent in the first half. They were up, 7-0, and then the fumble recovered by Buffalo for a touchdown. They all of a sudden couldn't stop Josh Allen. They couldn't stop James Cook. Their offense couldn't really do anything. And it all went downhill after that. And it hasn't been... They've had their moments, which is why they're 20th. They're still a good team, solid record. They've had good games, but they just haven't been able to put it all together, in my opinion, to be any higher than 20. Bucks at 19, I know they won a game, so why'd they move down 5 spots if they won? Well, first of all, you barely beat the Cardinals, right? I know the Cardinals have had, good games as well, similar to what I said about Pittsburgh, but you barely beat the Cardinals by 3. Teams who moved ahead of them, I think, have just played better recently because the Bucks have been on the downturn. They lost 3 in a row before beating the Cardinals by 3. They almost lost 4 in a row. So they've been on the downhill, whereas teams that moved ahead of them also won just like them, but they've been playing much better more recently. And the Panthers win against the Rams is another reason why they got bumped ahead of them, because their win against the Rams is a lot more impressive, in my opinion. The Bucks win over the Cardinals, but on top of what I said earlier, the Panthers have been playing better recently than the Bucks have. And these teams have the same amount of wins. Panthers, I think, are on their bye week, but they still play each other twice. So this division is still fully up for grabs. I feel like they're very similar points right now, so that's why they are at the same range on the power rankings at 18 and 19, but the Panthers get the boost for their win against the Rams. And the Chiefs at 17, it hasn't been great for Kansas City. Going down 6 spots seems a little aggressive considering they lost to a good Dallas Cowboys team by 3 points, and that's basically the story of their season. They've had a lot of one-score games against good teams. They just haven't been able to close it out. But the 3 teams ahead of them all beat them earlier in the season. So that's part of the reason why they're 6-6, not one of the best records. They haven't looked good. They still have the talent and the quarterback to get it done, to win games here down the stretch, to win out and make the playoffs, and we'll see. And if they do, they'll obviously start going back up the rankings. For right now, they are not playing like a top 16 team, especially when, again, the next 3 teams all beat them. And that tier is the Chargers at 16, the Cowboys at 15, the Jags at 14, the Texans at 13, and the Ravens at 12. Chargers at 16, it wasn't the best win against the Raiders. And I know their win against the Chiefs was week 1, so I don't like to factor week 1 games too much. But they did beat the Chiefs in week 1. Looked pretty good in that game as well. But they've been they haven't been the best. What do they have? 8-4, I think is their record. They haven't been the best 8-4 team for sure. But they also haven't been the healthiest, especially on that offensive line. But they get a win against the Raiders, and they only go up 1 spot just because it wasn't the prettiest game against the Raiders. Cowboys go up 15 spots for their big win against the Chiefs. It's also a reason why the Chiefs went down, because I feel like they should be below the Cowboys, with how the Cowboys are playing and how the Chiefs are playing, but I wasn't ready to put the Cowboys like top 10. So I felt like in that 13-15 range is fair, and that's obviously going to kick the Chiefs down to like a 16-17 team. But Cowboys, they got a win against the Eagles, coming back down 21-0, and now they beat the Chiefs on Thanksgiving. That's back-to-back wins against the 2 Super Bowl teams. Now they play the Lions. If the Cowboys can beat the Lions, they will continue to go up. They're still going to probably go up, even if it Who knows? Even if they lose, they might still go up because they're playing great. The Quinn Williams trade has been phenomenal. George Pickens, CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott have been a great trio on offense, on top of guys like Ferguson, Javonte Williams. The old line's playing good. Just overall, they're playing really good recently. So they've gone up a lot. They were at like 21, I think, before the game against Philly. They go up to like 19, and then they beat Kansas City and go up to 15. Jacksonville and Houston each go up. I know Jacksonville beat Houston early in the year pretty easily, and then Houston came back against the Jags, but I still think the Texans are playing better more recently than the Jags are, but it's very 50-50. But Jags go up one spot for their blowout win against the Titans, but the Texans deserve to go up more, in my opinion, because they beat the Colts, who's been a very good team all year. Still a good team in my opinion, but Texans have been playing great. Defense continues to be, in my opinion, the best in the league. It's just all about what can we get from the offense, and the offense has looked decent. And again, they don't have to be perfect because of how good the defense is played, but they've done well. CJ Stroud played his first game back. He looked pretty decent. So we'll see if they can continue that momentum on offense, because we all know what they're going to give us on defense, but they are now in position to win the division. Them, the Colts, and the Jags can all win the division. And I'm pretty sure the Jags play like 4 more division games, and like Houston and Indy play a ton of division games as well. So a lot can change in that AFC South division. Ravens at 12, they were going up. They were doing really good with Lamar. Lamar came back. They were winning and winning and winning, so they kept going up the rankings, and they made it all the way up to 8 before this week. And then they just don't look good at all against the Bengals. Defense couldn't do much. 5 turnovers by the offense. 1 in the back of the end zone for a touchdown, touchback, whether you like the rule or not, it happened. Lamar with 2 fumbles and a pick. Zay Flowers with a fumble. It just wasn't a good performance at all. They're still really good because it's just one game. But I just think when you have teams like Green Bay with their impressive win, teams like Chicago with their impressive win, teams like the Bills with their impressive win, it's really hard to move to keep the Ravens high. So they go down 12 spots after their bad loss to the Bengals. Next tier, the Niners at 11, the Lions at 10, the Packers at 9, the Colts at 8, and the Eagles at 7. I know the Niners beat the Browns, but they go down 1 spot mainly because of Green Bay. Green Bay is basically the reason why the Niners went down a spot. And it honestly was the prettiest win against a bad Browns team. So they're still a good team. Brock Purdy in that offense has still looked very good since getting healthy. And their defense is still playing well for the injuries they have. But it just didn't look fantastic against the Browns. Then we have the Lions at 10 and the Packers at 9. That's basically what happened there, which ended up being 9. Essentially, 1 spot lower is where the Lions were going to fall after the Packers got their win against the Lions on Thanksgiving. The Packers have had their down points, their loss to the Panthers, which doesn't look as bad now. Their loss to the Browns, it wasn't the prettiest win against the Giants, talking about more recently, but that was a very impressive game they played against the Lions on Thanksgiving. I'm not going to put them too high for their win, but I think top 10 is deserved for Green Bay, which then results in the Lions falling down to 10. It has not been a great stretch recently for the Lions with their loss to the Eagles and their loss to the Packers. They almost lost to the Giants. I still believe in the Lions. They're still a good team. They're probably going to win next week because of how they do after a loss, but it has not looked pretty for Detroit. They're still at 10. They're still a good team, but definitely at risk of missing the playoffs. Then we have the Colts at 8 and the Eagles at 3, 2 teams going down a spot here. Colts at 8, losing to the Texans. We've seen when they've played good teams like the Chiefs, like Pittsburgh, like the Texans, and these aren't even like the top of the top teams. It hasn't been good for the Colts when they've gone up against decent competition. We'll see what they can do. See if they can hang on to. They've lost the division right now. I think the Jags had the tiebreaker over them, but I think they play the Jags this week. So we'll see if the Colts can still make the playoffs. I still think they'll make the playoffs, but I definitely don't know how much I trust them in the playoffs with what we've seen from them recently, especially against better competition. And then the Eagles at 7 after their loss to the Bears, they go down 3 spots, similar to what I did with Green Bay and Detroit. I basically figured out where I placed Chicago, and then I put the Eagles 1 spot below them, because I still think the Eagles are good. They're still first place in the division, still have 8 wins. They still have insane talent on the team. They just need to put it together, in my opinion. Defense has been playing very good recently. They had their worst game as of recently against Chicago, especially in the ground game. They couldn't stop the Bears' rushing attack at all. And then the offense continues to be lackluster. But they still have the talent. They're still a good team. They still have had a good season. They're still 8-4. And they're still probably going to make the playoffs because no one in that division is really threatening them. Although the Cowboys, I guess, are now with their little win streak they've gone on. But the Eagles do fall to 7 after that loss to Chicago, meaning the Bears are at 6. The Bears are at 6, going up 7 spots, one of the biggest jumps. I think the biggest jump this week. They impressed me. I know they've had a good record all year long, but I wasn't fully bought in on the Bears just because they were playing a lot of close games. They weren't beating the best teams. They had close games against the Giants, against the Raiders. It wasn't the best for the Bears. I wasn't fully impressed. I was impressed with what they were doing, and it was the step up. It was a step in the right direction, but their defense wasn't playing that good. And again, a lot of close games. So I wasn't fully ready to move them super high. But this Eagles game did it for me. Going into Philadelphia, Black Friday game, everyone's watching. They dominate Philly on the ground game, which I didn't see coming. Caleb Williams didn't have his best game, don't get me wrong, but it was super windy out. And he made the throws when he needed to, especially that touchdown to Cole Kmet. But they couldn't. They dominated the Eagles on the ground game. Their defense played very well. They continued to take the ball away, which I think they're number 1 in the league in either takeaways or interceptions. They have 3 of the top 4 or 5 guys in interceptions. So defense hasn't been great in terms of just stopping offenses, but they do turn the ball over, which can mitigate that, because if you can win the turnover battle, you're going to win most of your games, right? But they really impressed me with that win against Philly, and I do think they are legit. Do I think they'll win the Super Bowl? I don't think so, even though I don't know any team. I can't say any team's a guarantee to win the Super Bowl with how this season's going, but I don't know if they're going to go far in the playoffs, but this is 100% a great season in year 1 of Ben Johnson, and I do think they can win a playoff game, and I think they can definitely make a serious run next year, but I do like what I've seen from the Bears. At 5, we have the Bills going up 4 spots from 9 to 5 after their win against Pittsburgh. Yes, Pittsburgh's not the best team, but the big reason Buffalo got a big boost here is because the Lions went down from 5 to 10, the Eagles went down from 4 to 7, and the Colts went down from 6 to 2, and the Ravens also went down from 8 to 12. Those are honestly the only reason the Bills went up a spot. It wasn't a bad game against Pitt. They played a great game against Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh is still a good team. And they probably would have went up spots anyway, regardless of what happened with Philly, Indy, Detroit, and Baltimore. But when those 4 teams go down, the Bills will naturally go up. I guess their win against Pittsburgh kept them from being below the Bears. If they barely beat Pittsburgh, maybe the Bears would be ahead of them, but because they blew them out, the Bills get the spot at 5. And at 4 is the Broncos now. They go up 3 spots because they were ranked 7, and then the teams ahead of them were Philly, Indy, and Detroit. They all lost. So Broncos, similar to Buffalo, naturally moved up. I'm still not fully bought in on the Broncos. They barely beat the Commanders. They've played such sketchy football in terms of close games, so many close games. The defense continues to try and win them games. And then when they need, I'll give Bo Nix credit when their offense doesn't do too much. Their defense plays amazing. And then Bo Nix, when it's time to make the plays at the end of the game, he makes the plays. and that's why they have such a high record. So I will give him credit. They've played well when they needed to, but I just want to see more consistency from that offense. We kind of saw it against Washington. It wasn't the best at the beginning, but they really picked it up towards the end. They go up to 4. They do have a high record. I got to give them credit for that. They keep winning. It's not the prettiest wins, but they keep winning. And again, when Philly, Indy, and Detroit all lose, they're going to naturally go up anyway. They just happen to go up 4 because 3 of the best teams all lost. I almost put them at 5 and Buffalo at 4, but again, because Denver was ranked higher than Buffalo, I gave them the slight spot ahead of them. At 3, we have the Seahawks going down. And yes, they beat Minnesota, but they go down 1 spot because the offense honestly didn't look that good. I know Minnesota's a good defense, don't get me wrong, but the offense didn't actually look that good. They kind of got saved by the fact that they literally didn't have to score a single point because the defense got the pick 6. They literally could have just won 7-0. They didn't have to do anything. They're still one of the better teams, but I kept them at 3 mainly because the Patriots move up from 3 to 2, which does mean the Rams are at 1. I know the Rams lost to the Panthers and the Patriots beat the Giants, but I think the Rams loss to the Panthers wasn't as much of, oh my God, the Rams aren't good or aren't as good as we thought. They're not the best team in the league. It's more of, oh, the Panthers are actually pretty decent. We should take them serious. I still think the Rams are the best team in the league. Maybe Stafford doesn't win MVP now. Maybe he goes to Drake May because of what he did against the Panthers. But I still think the Rams are the best team in the league. But it is very close with them and the Patriots. I just think the Patriots have had such an easy schedule. You can't control who you're playing. You just have to beat who's in front of you. And the sign of a good team is a team that can just beat the bad teams, win the games they're supposed to win. I understand that. But when it comes time to the playoffs, if the Super Bowl is between the Rams and the Patriots, I'm going to pick the Rams. I just trust them a little more at this point in the season. But I really have been impressed with the Patriots. Don't get me wrong. They're still my number 2 team in the league. But I'm just not fully bought in on the Patriots yet. Just yet. At least enough to put them above the Rams, even though the Rams lost to the Panthers. Because again, I think that loss was more the Panthers are good, not the Rams aren't the best team in the league. I still think the Rams are the best team, and they will still stay at number 1 for now, but we'll obviously see what happens this week. I don't know who the Rams and the Patriots play. Let me quickly look that up. Well, the Patriots actually have a bye week, so that's kind of good for them. They might go up to 1 just for not playing. The Rams play the Cardinals, so they should win that game. But if the Rams lose, the Patriots will definitely be in contention for being the number 1 team. But right now, I still think it is the Rams, even though they did have that loss to the Panthers. That will conclude our power rankings for Week 14. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and comment down below some of what you like and what you dislike about these power rankings, where you think your favorite team should be, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.